The National Action Plan to Combat Human Trafficking, President Donald J. Trump. So this was the number one priority of Trump's administration. It is, and yet it's rarely talked about, even to this day. A little bit more light has been shed on it with the movie Sound of Freedom. However, people do need to realize, and Trump has said it many times, is that the people that are trafficked, number one population that's trafficked is young women, then children, but young women. That's the number one, and those are the women that I encountered, that I took care of. So I came into this because of that, because they were from a safe house in my county, because of his funding. The president approved the largest Department of Justice grant package in history to combat human trafficking, including the first ever grants for safe housing for survivors. The first ever grants for safe housing for survivors. That's how I encountered these women. They would, the people that ran the safe house would bring them in, because they would have suicidal, or the hearing voice, just different, all different cases, okay? My education about it came from myself, really, right on the spot, taking care of some of these women, and really a bunch of it came from talking to the woman that ran this house. It's a faith-based home, and that was part of the action plan, was faith-based survivor homes. So this is the document. I'm not going to read all of it, but a couple of things to point out here. One, the first paragraph. I am proud to present my administration's National Action Plan to combat human trafficking. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness are among the unalienable rights enshrined in America's founding documents. Tragically, through force, fraud, and coercion, human traffickers deprive victims of these cherished rights, often referred to as, quote, modern slavery, end quote. Human trafficking can involve the exploitation of both adults and children for labor and sex. It can devastate people of all ages, genders, races, religions, and nationalities. My administration is determined to eradicate this evil from our cities, suburbs, rural areas, and tribal lands. And this, even though it says 2020, he was working on it. There was other, you can go on like whitehouse.gov and you can see he was working, this is just the 20 and 20, because he was always putting more money towards it. And as you can see in the paragraph right above me, my administration has been committed to this effort since its earliest days. During my first month in office, I instructed federal agencies to do what was necessary to bring human traffickers to justice and to assist traumatized survivors as they travel their road to recovery. Since then, I have signed 9 pieces of bipartisan legislation to combat human trafficking domestically and around the globe. So I have spent over 3 years doing videos, really losing my mind with the nursing profession at the top, because what happened in first of all, the trafficking was always the pandemic. It was before even 2020. Even if you hated Trump because the media was going to make sure to hate you, it shows how evil the media is. It does. They're not showing how much is being done about this. It's strange. But anyway, you had to have come across some articles, maybe people have forgotten, where there were operations with U.S. Marshals going on all over the country from the time Trump entered office. Like Operation Homebound, Operation We Will Save You, Operation Homesick, all that was saving women and children all across the country. And people were like, wait, when did all these people go missing? Why weren't we told? Why didn't we have any Amber Alerts? When's the last time you had an Amber Alert? Even before recently. Not that we've had any, but I'm just saying, you don't ever have them anymore. So, everybody wondered what's with all these people that disappeared. Why is there? Because sometimes there were 3 operations a week that sometimes the mainstream media would carry them, but not like all of them. They would just pick and choose, because again, they are designed to direct your thinking into what is most important. And then lo and behold, what came in 2020? Oh, well, this other pandemic, because none of the hospitals or any of the medical or nursing associations wanted to do the right thing and address the true pandemic. Which is why it infuriates me that during 2020, when the whole George Floyd incident happened, that they decided to get on their kick of systemic racism, and that the blacks were, that the black population was enslaved, they're talking about, and then they're doing their racial reckoning. And I'm thinking, you hypocrites, you're such hypocrites. You're not even educated. I mean, you maybe can find some papers on trafficking that the nursing and medical profession have done, but they didn't make it a priority. Not like Trump was making it a priority. Not like every other sector was making it a priority. No, they weren't. Northwestern, I've said this before, I asked them to let this woman from the Safe House come in and educate us, or at least in the mental health department in the ER. They said no, it would have been free. They said no. And there's no way the hospitals didn't know this. This would have been the perfect document. Yes, it's 61 pages, but it's the whole action plan laid out. How to recognize these victims, what to do. I mean, everything. And then to prosecute the people that were involved. I mean, a whole action plan. Every hospital in the country could have done the right thing, and they didn't. They still aren't. I went into travel nursing in the fall of 2020, and I have yet to be to a hospital that healthcare workers know that they should look out for this because it's a pandemic. No, they don't. In fact, if any young woman came into the ER and said she was trafficked and she was there for mental health, they likely would write her off as exaggerating, because they don't know, because they're not told by the upper echelon of the hospitals, and they're not told by the people dictating the care, like the nursing organization or the medical association. Instead, those associations decided to get on board with systemic racism, making hypocrites of themselves, because while they carried on about racial reckoning, how they have done this reckoning, it's like, how can you possibly say that when you're not even focusing on what's most important? What did they focus on? They focused on systemic racism. They focused on the transgender craze and the transgender on children, discounting the pandemic of all of these vulnerable victims. It's why I don't want to. I don't want to be a nurse anymore right now. I just don't. Maybe someday it'll change. But it'll take having to have a new leadership altogether, and you can't just swap them out with somebody else who will. It needs to be people that are first ethically based. And right now we don't have anybody in the head of medicine or the head of nursing or the head of the hospital association that's willing to, even to this day, do the right thing. They still stay on their path of equity, their unsustainable path, but their equity, diversity, and inclusion. So they'll train you about, being racist. They'll train you about what health equity looks like. But those are the same people that not during Trump's administration or even since then have wanted to place the focus on what the true pandemic always was. And that's the victims of modern day slavery from trafficking. So, yeah, that's why the nursing and medical professions want to stand on this value system that's just phony, because their value system discounts this. They may bring it up, but when I've gone to several hospitals since 2020 and worked at them, and none of the healthcare profession knows what a crisis this is, it just tells me that no, we still, even to this day, do not have the right people dictating care when it comes to health and nursing.